the last chapter, we see how grandmother visits Clara in Frankfurt, how she gets to know the situation in the house, Miss Rottenmeier, the teacher, and how Heidi is sad. She asks her if she's having any trouble that she would want to discuss and asks her to convey everything to God and He'll be able to help her. Heidi is also encouraged by her to start learning to read, and if she does that, she will be given a book as a gift. By the end of the chapter, we see how Heidi quickly learns to read and she receives that book as a gift. Let's see what happens now. Would Heidi be happy with her life in Frankfurt, or is she still yearning to go back to her beautiful life she had with her grandfather in the mountains? Heidi by Johanna Spyri, Chapter 11, Homesickness by Tanvi Gupta. Every afternoon, when Clara was resting after dinner, grandmother would take Heidi to her own room where she had a lot of pretty dolls. And she showed her how to make dresses and aprons for them, so that the child learned how to sew and to make all sorts of beautiful clothes for little people. And then grandmother liked to hear her read aloud, and oftener Heidi read her tales the fonder she grew of them. But still she never looked really happy, and her eyes were no longer bright. It was the last week of grandmother's visit. She called Heidi into her room as usual one day after dinner, and the child came with her book under her arm. The old lady laid the book aside and said, "Now, my dear, tell me, why are you not happy? Have you still the same trouble at heart?" Heidi nodded in reply. "Have you told God about it?" "Yes." "And do you pray every day that He will make things right and that you may be happy again?" "No, I have left off praying." "Do not tell me that, Heidi. Why have you left off praying?" "It is no use. God does not listen," Heidi went on in an agitated voice. "And I can understand that when there are so many people in Frankfurt praying to him every evening, that he cannot attend to them all. And he certainly has not heard what I've said to him." "And why are you so sure of that, Heidi?" "Because I have prayed for the same thing every day for weeks, and yet God has not done what I asked." "You are wrong, Heidi. You must not think of him like that. God is a good father to us all and knows better than we do what is good for us. He did not think what you have been praying for you was good for you just now. But be sure He heard you, for He can hear and see everyone at the same time because He is a God and not a human being like you and me. While God is watching over you and looking to see if you will trust Him and go on praying to Him every day, you run away and leave off saying your prayers and forget all about Him. You would not like to grieve God, would you, Heidi? When He only wants to be kind to you. So will you not go and ask Him to forgive you and continue to pray and to trust Him? For you may be sure that He will make everything right and happy for you, and then you will be glad and light-hearted again. Heidi had perfect confidence in the grandmother, and every word she said sank into her heart. "I will go at once and ask God to forgive me, and I will never forget Him again," she replied repeatedly. And she ran away and prayed that she might always remember God and that He would go on thinking about her. The day came for grandmother's departure, a sad one for Clara and Heidi. But grandmother was determined to make it as much like a holiday as possible and not to let them mope and she kept them so lively and amused that they had no time to think about their sorrow at her going until she really drove away. Then the house seemed so silent and empty that Heidi and Clara did not know what to do with themselves and sat during the remainder of the day like two lost children. Many weeks passed away. Heidi did not know if it was winter or summer, for the walls and windows she looked out upon showed no change. And she never went beyond the house except on rare occasions when Clara was well enough to drive out. And then they only went a little away as Clara could not bear the movement for long. On these occasions, they generally only saw more fine streets and large houses and crowds of people. They seldom got anywhere beyond them, and grass and flowers, fir trees and mountains were still far away. Heidi's longing for the old, familiar, and beautiful things grew daily stronger, so that now only to read a word that recalled them to her remembrance brought her to the verge of tears, which she suppressed with difficulty. So the autumn and winter passed, and again the sun came shining down on the white walls of the opposite houses. And Heidi would think to herself that now the time had come for her Peter to go out again with the goats, to where the golden flowers of the sisters were glowing in the sunlight, and all the rocks around turned to fire at sunset. She would go and sit in a corner of her lonely room and put her hands up to her eyes that she might not see the sun shining on the opposite wall. And then she would remain without moving, battling silently with her terrible homesickness until Clara sent her again. The end.